Hi, hello, good evening. I guess I'm audible. Let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me. Okay, so we will be going through with the main sessions, right? So obviously we have covered so far just very basic of cybersecurity. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. And before going ahead, I do have a quiz for you, right? So just sharing the link of the quiz as well. And yeah, go ahead with your questions as well in the meantime. So yeah, I've shared the quiz link. Please go ahead and just fill up the quiz, right? It's just a simple Google form. Go ahead with the quiz, and once you are done, let me know. We can go ahead and start for today, right? So it's 8:31 till now. We will be going, or we'll be waiting till 8:37. Let's say I'm giving you 6 minutes. Okay. So it's a pretty simple questionnaire, right? Because what we did yesterday it revolves around that only. Okay, recording link. I'm sharing the recording link. This here is the recording link, right? Okay. Any other thing? Go ahead with the quiz, and I'll be waiting till 8:37. Right, 5 minutes more. Hi, good evening, Raj. Good evening, Vikas. Good evening, Rajesh. Okay, let's wait for 7 more minutes till other people are also joining. Right. In the meantime, go ahead, attend the quiz. Right. We'll be going ahead. Okay. Okay. So we have got three answers: three, four, four, five submissions, six, seven submissions. Okay, you can share your marks over here. Sharing the link of quiz once again for those who haven't got it yet. It's a pretty simple quiz. You could go ahead and do it, Piyush. 5 out of 5, great. So it's a pretty simple thing, right? What we just did yesterday, it's all about that only, right? So ultimately, it's nothing more than just what we did yesterday. So we'll be having these kind of quiz every day, right? Where we'll be giving you questions about uh, what we have already done in the previous class, right? So उसके बारे में हम लोग questionnaire रखेंगे छोटा सा. So yeah, could you send me the link of quiz? Sure, why not? Here it is. Sending you again. Okay, waiting for 3 more minutes to complete, to let everyone complete the quiz. We have 37 people over here, including me, waiting for 2-3 minutes more so that we can have the maximum audience and then start. Okay, anybody over here who was not present yesterday? कोई ऐसा है जो कल नहीं था और आज आया है? Please do let me know. Anybody? Okay, Fazal, you are there. Anybody else? So Guys who were not there yesterday, let me tell you about myself as well. We had introduction session. We did a little bit about cybersecurity. Acha, Fazal, have you seen, and Mintu, have you seen basically the recording for yesterday or not? अभी देख ली recording या फिर अभी रहती है? If you have seen the recording, it's really good. But if not, let me know. You've sent the link of feedback form instead of the quiz. No, it's oh my bad. What next? The first one was correct though. Not seen, but I know basic of cybersecurity. Okay, cool. No, sir, अभी देख ही रहा था. Okay, cool. So once you finish yesterday's recording, it's nothing much. It's just about basics of cybersecurity and what are the job vectors in this and कैसे कैसे हम लोग आगे इस कोर्स के अंदर किस रोड मैप को कंटिन्यू करेंगे कैसे प्रोजेक्ट्स रहेंगे. We discussed about that and a little bit about myself. If you do not know about me, I'm a cybersecurity trainer, corporate trainer, and a public speaker as well. And ultimately, I have been training a lot of students and a lot of people at a lot of age groups, right? And yes, obviously, if you have got any cybersecurity related question, feel free to contact me in that option where we have in the Sunstone app. ठीक है, Sunstone app में जो हमारा option रहता है उसके अंदर जा करके you can just contact me or ask any doubt if you have anything. Okay, so let us start with today's session, right? Hope so everybody have completed the quiz, right? Congratulations to everyone who are getting 4 and 5, right? अगर 3 आ रहा है या फिर 4 से नीचे आ रहा है ना तो प्लीज गो अराउंड विद द रिकॉर्डिंग वंस अगेन, राइट? सो लेट्स गो अहेड एंड लेट्स स्टार्ट विद टुडेज सेशन. सी, हम लोग आगे बात करेंगे बेसिकली नेटवर्किंग की. तो हमने कल ये देख लिया था कि कैसे कैसे साइबर सिक्योरिटी में चीज़ें काम करती है एंड हाउ एक्चुअली साइबर सिक्योरिटी इज is basically studied, right? नाउ द पॉइंट इज कि यार नेटवर्किंग के ऊपर हमने बोला कि यार ये बेसिक है और नेटवर्किंग को ही लेकर हमें आगे चलना है. बट व्हाट एक्चुअली इज नेटवर्किंग वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इन अ वेरी थॉरो मैनर. कल हमने ये देखा कि नेटवर्किंग जो है वो अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ा फील्ड है एंड अल्टीमेटली इस पूरे के पूरे फील्ड में वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स वी कैन टॉक अबाउट. तो उसमें सबसे पहली चीज़ जो आती है दैट इज नेटवर्किंग के अंदर अगर मैं बात करता हूँ दैट इज बेसिकली आर कंपोनेंट्स, राइट? कि बेसिकली हमारे पूरे के पूरे नेटवर्किंग के अंदर कौन कौन से कंपोनेंट्स रहते हैं, कौन कौन से कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं. सो वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग, दैट हाउ मेनी कंपोनेंट्स वी डू हैव in our networking. That is what we need to understand at a very thorough rate, right? Why? Because understanding that will basically take us to that understanding कि हाँ मैं आगे कैसे इंफॉर्मेशन कैप्चर करूंगा या किस तरीके से चीज़ों को समझूंगा, राइट? सो the point is that networking is the very basic building block of cybersecurity. Yesterday, we have learned that networking is a very basic thing, how internet works, and we understood about how the modeling of internet is done, how the structure of internet is done, what is ping, and all these kind of things. So we will be going forward now into a very modeled system of cybersecurity. So what I will be going through would be about the components of a network, right? So let us start with that and let us basically go around with that. Okay. So I'm just asking you a question, right? Simply asking you a question, not going through my answer right now. Just simple question that I would like to ask you about is that what do you think is basically the networking part, right? Or basically what would be the components of a network? So if I talk about components of a network, right, what according to are other components of a network? Any answers what we would have? Switch, okay. So switch, nodes, right, protocol, okay. Then anything else that you might think? OSI is a model though. We're not going into the models right now. Types, okay, ports, services, types, error, error, error as in, Okay. So if I talk about networking, right, you guys said hardware, you guys said switch and all these things. So let me just go through which is the correct. Okay. Yeah. So they see the first thing that we would need is basically our hardware, right? And yes, hardware is the correct answer because what hardware is, it's basically the
Thank you, sir.
devices, right? So devices is the main thing. We need devices, hardware, switches, nodes. Yes, we need devices, right? So the first thing is to have the devices over here. So we have this device, right? Let's say we have two device, device number one, device number two. Now the second part, what do we need? Right, we need wires, we need any kind of thing like type, what kind of medium we would provide it, right? It would be a wired medium or a wireless medium, वो ब्लूटूथ से चलेगा या आपके वाईफाई से चलेगा या फिर रेडियो फ्रीक्वेंसीज के थ्रू काम करेगा. It could be anything. So we need to have a medium over here, right? So now we have two things, hardware and a medium. So let's say we have given it a medium, let's say we have given it a wired medium, so it can basically connect over here. The first device can talk to the second one would talk to the first one. Okay, now what is the third option? What is the
Sir,
third thing that we would need?
sir,
Please go ahead.
sir, addresses also in the components of a network, sir. Addresses, IP addresses, and
Obviously, addresses are there, but that would be the fourth thing that we would be needing, right?
okay.
See, so obviously we would need protocols, right? So I'll be writing addresses, I'll be writing all these kind of stuff, OSI and everything, services. We'll count everything of that in the protocol system. But what is the third and the very basic, very main thing that we are missing? We are missing a message, the data that is being sent from one point to another, right? So yes, data. I got the answer before I spoke. Okay, so we need a message right over here. So we have hardware or the devices, we have the medium, we have connected two devices, and we have the basically message that we need to send from one device to another. The point is that with these three things, I can already create a network. I can already create a complete network. I do not need any kind of other thing to create my network. But then why we need protocols? Right? Why we need addresses? Why do we need protocols? Okay,
For wireless, sir, for
for
wireless.
wireless, let's say if I connect wirelessly, I have an address where I have to send my packet. I have given that address, but then why would I need services? Then why would I need ports? Why would I need MAC addresses? Why would I need other kind of protocols to maintain the things, right? So
Fast and secure. For purpose of fast
fast
and
and
secure.
secure. Okay. Okay, any other answer? To make it fast and secure, okay, one thing. Any other point why security? Okay, so I guess when the creators of internet were creating internet, they were not thinking much about security, and even no developer thinks about security when they're creating the product. It comes after you have created something, that how do I secure it? But what would be the first thing why would we need it? Anant is asking, what do you mean by medium? Medium से मेरा मतलब है the cables and the way the devices are getting connected with each other, right? Communication. Okay. See, all your answers are correct. I'm not saying that security is not the main reason or efficiency and speed is not the main reason. Obviously, they are the reasons, but the main point is that the main reason of having these kind of things was basically to create a standardization. Right. We wanted to have standardization. So to explain standardization, I need to go back to 1980s and tell you a story between Apple and Microsoft. So uh, if you give me the permission, I can go ahead with the story, or I can just skip this story and directly jump to the topic. Story or no story?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So it's a very cool story, right? Going back in time, if I go into 1980, 1970, so it's a time of when there was no computers, right? When there were no PCs, personal computers, I would say. There were computers, but not personal, and ultimately, a lot of people were basically wanting to have the computers installed in their home, but they were not having those. And the people who had computers, they were not very much efficient because the operating system was DOS, disk operating system, and it was built mainly on assembly language, right? So it was very difficult for the people to use them. At that point, what happened was that Apple also had their own computers. Macintosh was were there, and these kind of PCs, like what do we say? These if I tell you about Microsoft, right? So they also were dealing with IBM. Right, so Microsoft had their own operating system. They sold it or they licensed it to IBM, and with one disk operating system being shipped in a particular computer, IBM has to pay a little bit amount to Microsoft as well, and that is why Microsoft was earning good amount of money. Now the point was that at that particular time, Apple was having one motive, right? And the main motive of Apple, why Steve Jobs started Apple, was to basically sell all the products at a very cheaper rate, right? I know this is very ironical. स्टीव जॉब्स का जो विजन था वो यही था कि हम मार्केट में सबसे सस्ते डिवाइसेस बेचें, दैट वी शुड सेल द cheapest devices in the world. And at that time, Microsoft plus IBM, they were doing a lot of good things, and but ultimately the PCs were costlier, right? Or basically the computers were costlier. Now I don't know the exact figure, right? But I will be going with a referenced figure over here, right? So let's say Microsoft was selling their product for $500 at that time, let's say, and ultimately Apple wanted to sell the same product at a very small price. So Apple said, let's basically create the same kind of computer with the same kind of operating system, and we'll be selling this particular thing at, let's say, $200, right? Now, these kind of computers were not having any kind of mouse. They were only keyboard based systems and pretty basic systems, right? And then came the revolution phase, right? Where basically Unix was introduced, a new operating system written by Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, right? And ultimately, these two people wrote B language, then C language, and then created Unix. And then ultimately, this led to the invention of one more operating system, which was based on Unix only. It's called as Xerox OS. And Xerox OS was basically created by Xerox company only. So it was a company which was developing Xerox machines, and ultimately they created their own operating system and their own PC. Now, because Xerox was open source, Apple was like, let me go ahead and copy all the things. And there that quote comes from, that good artist steal and sorry, great artist copy and good artist steals, something like that, right? So that this was basically the thinking of Steve Jobs, and he was like, let's bring this particular thing because Unix was built on C language, right? It had a mouse in it, and the mouse was having like three buttons over here, just like how we have like two buttons and a scroll button over here in today's time. And that time the first mouse had three buttons, right? No scroll, nothing, but three buttons. And a GUI operating system was there, right? So ultimately Unix had that feel of that, what we have right now, all those options, file, edit, options, view, reference, help, that you see in the top title bar. And then ultimately the desktop, my computer, recycle bin, the GUI calculator, or a GUI game or paint application. All this was designed in Unix, and ultimately Apple said that we will be coming up with a new operating system very soon, and ultimately we will be creating this. So when Steve Jobs had the vision of creating a new PC at a very small price with a very user friendly PC, right? Bill Gates was like, no, this cannot happen. So Bill Gates came to Steve Jobs and he said that, hey, buddy, can we be friends? And befriending him, he took advantage of him and stole the whole idea of how this operating system works, right? And then ultimately, he went to the media and just simply told that we will be creating a new operating system that would be called as Windows. And ultimately, even the employees of Microsoft were not knowing how they would create Windows. And he just gave a window of like 2, 3 years. Right now, Apple filed a lawsuit on Microsoft, and again, Apple won. The outcome was that Apple was given 2 years, right? So if in 2 years Apple would create and launch the operating system, cool. If not, on the next day after 2 years, Microsoft has the right to publish Windows operating system, and Apple failed to do so. Microsoft created Windows, started selling it, and it was basically a boom, right? And what Microsoft did was that they would say that they just finished their partnership with IBM, and then they just said that, okay, for every particular PC you will buy, we'll basically make it cheaper for you, or if you already have our PC, we will basically be giving you a free upgrade. And with free upgrades, all our peripherals like keyboard, mouse, if you buy it, that would cost you $20, or let's say $30, not more than that. Now, this was a good point, right? On the other hand, Apple was facing losses and issues, and resulting that Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company by the board members, right? Because he was the only person who befriended Bill Gates, right? Now, the point was that when Steve Jobs was fired from his own company, the fall of Apple started, which made Apple, for surviving in the market, to increase the prices. Never in the history Apple wanted to create printers, but Apple had to create printers, right, just to survive in the market. The whole market cap of Apple was going down, and they had to just scale the prices up, and the prices for the PCs went from $200 to $600 to $700, so that they could get high ticket clients and just survive in the market, right? So the point was that all the people who had this Apple laptops, also not laptops were not there at that time, the PCs, Apple PCs, Macintosh at that time, they were not able to connect these peripherals to Apple PCs, right? And even if they got this Apple PC at high price point, they are not able to attach these peripherals of very cheaper rates to Apple's PC. And I guess this has been working since a lot of time, right? Because even you might have seen that Apple basically comes up with new things every time, right? And just now, Apple has come up with their iPhone 15. They have started this Type C port in their iPhones. Otherwise, they had their own Lightning port, right? They have their own Lightning cable over here. Do you remember that Apple iPhone also had a very huge lightning cable in iPhone 4? Right. So iPhone 4 charging cable, if you basically see, it's basically a big charging port, and ultimately a big charging cable is required. It's just like this. And ultimately it's pretty uncommon to see these kind of cables, and they look ugly. Right. Now, Apple wanted to make their iPhones, pretty sleek and pretty well designed, so they wanted to come to a different kind of ports. So they started creating lighting ports, which are there in iPhone till iPhone 13, 14. With iPhone 15, they started with Type C cables. Why? Because a standardization is required, right? At that time, Apple was not supporting the mouse and other peripherals created by other companies. But now, if you see that my laptop is from Asus right now. I've connected a Acer screen with it. The headphones that I've connected is basically coming from a different company. The mic is from a different company, right? The mouse is from HyperX. The keyboard is from Zebronics, right? So ultimately, everything else, not only the outer peripherals but inner peripherals as well. I've got Intel SSD. I've got one more company I have SSD from. Then the RAM is basically coming from a different company. The CPU is basically different from the motherboard's company. Even the motherboard manufacturer is not the main, not Asus. Only the laptop is basically from Asus. So they're taking everything from different spaces and connecting everything in. Even Apple iPhones are basically getting the screens from Samsung, right? And the same screens are cannot be used by Samsung. It's their patent. I don't know how it works, but Samsung is creating screens for Apple, and Apple has patented that technology. So Samsung cannot use the same thing that they're giving to Apple, right? So the point is that standardization is the main thing, right? Standardization is the main thing that we needed, right? It's all around topic. Why? Because basically this is the main important thing that you would need going forward into cybersec, right? Even if for hardware hacking or even for other kind of things, you would need all kind of information, right? So basically standardization is the main thing that is basically there. And iPhone 15 only came with Type C because a standardization company is there, organization is there that is taking care for all the standardized product. Type C is the standard right now. So the point is that while internet was created, this standardization was there till that time as well, and they wanted to keep everything standardized, and that is why they started with creating the models or creating different kind of what we say the models, or basically the layering system, that we would have internet working in a very layered format, that if some packet comes up, right, we will be using that particular packet to simply go around with the a layered system. The first of all, a packet would come through our main topology. It would basically reach our hardware. Then the hardware would basically filter it out with a MAC address. Then it would basically use the IP address, and that would basically use your main service or something like a protocol. And then it would basically unfilter and will be seen directly on my system. So it takes the whole process over there, and that is why we need to have um, the models over here. And the first model that we came up with was basically the OSI model system. And OSI model is the main model that we would need in networking to understand. Why I have put OSI over here, right? Because in cybersecurity, we need networking as much as we want, as much information as you basically get it, be it from hardware, be it from software, be it from networking, be it from Linux, as much information as you can get, it would help you in cybersecurity, right? So OSI model works in layering system. So we start from physical layer to data link layer to network, then transport, then session, presentation, application. Now you can remember these layers with a mnemonic over here. It's pretty simple. It's like PDNT, SPA. It's please do not throw sausages and pizza away, right? So you can basically go ahead and try to basically go around with this particular thing, right? So we have like physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, application. We will be going one by one from from the basic first layer to the advanced application layer. See, in cybersecurity, all we need is the first four layers. They are counted from very bottom, right? So ultimately, when a particular data is coming over here, you need to basically understand it from the very basic. So we would basically start with this physical layer. So this is your first layer. Then we have data link. Then we have network. We have transport. We have session. Then presentation, and then application. So this is when you are basically sending some data from server to client, right? So from client to server, it will follow this thing, right? So from client to server, right? And whenever a response is coming back, it would basically work in a reverse manner. So this is basically server to client, right? That how the client would read the data, right? So this is how it works over here. Why we are basically going from client to server? Why we are basically going reverse, right? Because ultimately you will be clicking on a button, right? Whenever you are going to a website. For example, I came over here by clicking on google.com. So I clicked google.com on my application layer on my browser, and then basically went to presentation layer, went to session layer. At the end, these three layers are not very important for me for cybersecurity, but the first four are very, very important. So I will be talking in detail about these layers, not the upper three layers, right? So if you want to go into networking, if you want to basically become a networking associate, you can go around with the the above three layers as well. But for cybersecurity, we just need the bottom four layers, right? So whenever you're clicking on a website, it would basically take you to transport layer, where it would basically quickly integrate the protocol that you need. For example, to going to when we are going to Google, we are integrating HTTPS protocol over here. This protocol would work on this transport layer. In network layer, DNS would work, and we will get the IP address of google.com. Then we would basically get jumped to Google's IP address, right? When we reach there, the MAC address will be traced, our MAC address and the server's MAC address, and ultimately then all the things are basically working through physical layer. The physical layer is the main medium, so it will take directly our data directly to the server's Office, right? So whenever the server would reply, so the data would come through the wires or through any medium directly through to your router. Then the router would filter based on upon your MAC address that from which device the data was coming from, and then ultimately it would take or give the data to network layer. That means it would basically filter out that which IP addresses data has to be sent to, and then we would be unfolding the protocol. So it was HTTPS. We would basically be checking if HTTPS was successfully applied or not, if the data was basically encrypted or not. And then ultimately we'll give it to the session. The session layer would create a session between my data and the browser. And ultimately it would basically give back to the presentation layer where the all the data would basically get unfold. And if there is any packet that might got disturbed while the transfer was taking place in the physical layer, presentation layer would check for all the packets because packets are actually numbered. Let's say the server was sending 100 packets, but out of 100, we only got 99 packet and one packet got disturbed or one packet got deleted while we were basically taking the data. So ultimately at that time, presentation layer would say, okay, hey, physical layer, we just got one data, one packet left. Can you just again go around and bring one packet more? So physical layer would go around and bring one more packet over here. So this is how presentation layer would work. Once we have collected all the packets, application layer will display all the packets and render all the JavaScripts and everything. So all the render process basically takes place in the application layer. It's basically your main browser over here. And you will be able to basically see the page of Google. So this is how it particularly works, right? Everything works in a layer. So we would be going one by one in every layer and see what every layer holds and what kind of data we do have in every particular layer, starting from the very first physical layer, right? So we would be going around with that. Once we complete OSI model, once we complete this particular thing, how physical layer works and how my data link and network layer and transport layer works, then we will be going forward with a Linux, and then we would be basically going forward with the other topics, right? So this is what we would need as much as we need to understand in networking, because in physical layer we will be understanding about topology, we will be understanding about some duplex modes and other things, and the 2, 3, and 4 basically. In second we would be learning about MAC addresses, and third we would be learning about IP addresses, IP addresses, how IPs are related with MAC, the DNS, the subnetting, the classification of IP, and all these kind of stuff. In the fourth one, we will be talking about HTTPS or some other protocols as well, because they are very much important for me, how TCP and UDP works. We'll be doing some practical stuff as well, right? So for practical stuff, I would need all of you to basically create your IDs on Try Hack Me, right? So if you haven't yet considered going or visiting the website, I also told about it yesterday, right? So go over to Try Hack Me and create your account over here. So it's a pretty simple website. You will be going over here. You just have to go around and create your website, create your username over here. That's it. And you can then basically start around by solving certain labs over here. So if you go into the labs, we have a lot of labs over here. They have around about 600, 700 labs, 800 labs even. Out of those, 600 to 650 labs are totally free. So you can just practice all these kind of things. If you do not understand where to start with, you can also go to Learning Path and go with a very easy or informational learning path, which would basically give you the idea about how the security thing works. So introduction to cybersecurity, right? And ultimately it has all the labs that you could basically go around. It's tryhackme.com, right? So it's tryhackme.com. See, I'm sending the link of these kind of things once over here, right? But do not ask me to send the links. What you are actually seeing on the screen, right? It's a simple thing, tryhackme.com. So the first and the main skill of a hacker or a cybersecurity person is to solve problems, right? So solve these problems yourself. The more problems you'll be solving yourself, right, the more you will be able to understand about cybersecurity, right? So if you even get any technical doubt, please do not come to me running that, sir, this is not working, unless and until you have researched on it thoroughly for a day. If you have not opened the minimum of 20 tabs on Google, how that particular problem would be solved. Or if you have not watched at least 10 YouTube videos, please do not come to me. That's why this is not working. If then, after watching 10 videos, after reading 20 articles, if you think that, okay, this is not working, go ahead, ask me the question. I'll be able to tell you, I'll be solving your doubt. No issues in that. But make sure that if you get any technical doubt on anything, try to solve it yourself. This is the very first thing that is needed for a cybersecurity person or a hacker to continue the career, right? Okay, so we will be using TryHackMe, right, for certain open source labs and certain things, and it has got a lot of labs over here. So you can basically go around and do all these kind of things. And right now they have this Advent of Cyber 2024 running over here. So you can simply just join the room and start with all these kind of things. And Advent is really, really good. Every year they do this competition and a lot of people participate. And the first one to just solve the labs would basically get the points, and also would basically get rewards, right, in real time. So yeah, right, that is what we have for now, right? So let's go forward and let's basically see what do we basically need to learn physical layer, right? So talking about physical layer, it's a pretty simple layer, right? Does not have anything very much what I can say interesting, right? I know that networking might be a little bit boring whenever you basically talk about it, but see, the main thing of this particular concept, physical layer, is to understand how my network would work at a very core or at a very basic level. So in physical layer, the first thing that we need to understand is our data rate. And I guess I do not need to explain what data rate is, right? डेटा रेट की अगर मैं बात करता हूँ तो डेटा रेट सिंपल अगर है, so it's pretty simple, right? It's nothing much, it's just pretty simple, and it's basically um, something with respect to time, right? Anything that is rate, it's something with respect to time. So if I'm saying that my data is working with respect to time, or data divided by time, it's simply, we can say it's the speed of the data, right? So it's speed of data or the flow of data, right, per unit time. So ultimately the speed of data over here is my measured in megabytes per second or megabits per second. Usually it's megabits per second in which you measure the speed, the unit of measuring the speed of internet, right? But we use internet in megabytes per second, right? So we actually use it in megabytes per second, but we basically count the speed in megabits per second. So there are two main units, right? So whenever you are just measuring the speed, it's megabits per second. But when I am talking about a particular software which is being downloaded, then ultimately it is megabytes per second, right? So the point is that I need to understand the difference over here, right? So why do we basically download a thing in megabytes, but the speed is in megabits? That is a basic thing that we need to understand over here. So the point is that if I just go around, let me just, okay, I do not want to clear it, but I want to. Okay. Zoom does not have got that feature. Okay. So the point is that I would need to go forward, and it's basically, if I go even to fast.com, right, you can see that I would be getting the speed in megabits per second. It's a small b over here. So I'm getting this speed, but this speed is megabits per second, right? So this is bits, not bytes. But while be downloading something, when I will be downloading something, it would be in megabytes. So always to remember that I have to, simply just divide my speed by 8 to actually understand what is the correct speed over here, right? So if I download any kind of software, if I download any kind of thing, if I download any kind of music, I will be basically downloading in mega bytes over here. So let's say I'm getting 210 megabits per second. So we know that 1 byte is equal to 8 bits. So I need to basically divide I need to divide basically by this 210 by 8 to basically get the actual speed of my data. So fairly keeping it just 200 to make the calculation simple, it would result in somewhere around like 100, then 4, then 2, then 50. We got 25. Right. So 25 megabytes per second. This is the speed that we are basically getting. And ultimately, for a 50 MB application, it would take 2 seconds. Right. That is the only difference or only thing that you need to learn in the data rate part, because it's pretty simple to understand what data rate is. Right. Okay. Going forward, what is the second thing that we would need in my physical layer? That is the duplex mode. What is duplex mode, right? What is the duplex mode that we need to understand? So duplex mode has, basically the meaning that how my device would work, right? So for example, the first thing is basically the half duplex mode, right? So it's basically half duplex, where half duplex simply means that the data can be sent, right, from one point to another and from another point to first as well. But at a time, only one thing can be possible. Either you are downloading or either you are uploading. Right. So either you are sending the data or either you are receiving the data. If you do the things, both the things together, it might be possible that you won't be able to listen to that particular data. Because let's say that the data that you are basically sending is this, right? And let's say that the data you are receiving is this. Let's create. So the data that you might be receiving is this. So if you basically combine these two topics, right, we would be seeing, or the resultant would be basically pretty simple. The resultant would be the straight line, because this particular would get deleted with this would be cancelled with this would be cancelled with this, and ultimately won't be able to read something, or you would be able to receive something. So the point is that half duplex mode requires you to just do one thing at a time. So it's basically one way connection, or I would say a one way highway kind of a connection, where you would be able to go up one way, but you can also go the other way, but one thing at a time, basically, right? So the any example that you might have got? Walkie talkie. Okay, so walkie talkies are the very prime example of this particular thing, half duplex. Okay, so one question from my side: why do airplane mode exist? Why airplane mode in our phones exist? What is the need of airplane mode? Of what it does, right? We all know that airplane mode is there in our phones, but why do we have airplane modes? Refresh. The name suggests that it's airplane mode, right? That whenever you are in an airplane, you have to switch your phone to the airplane mode, because it's the mode that is basically created for airplanes. So it is not for refreshing your mobile, right? So the point is that um, you need to basically, whenever you are basically in the plane, you need to basically switch to airplane. Why? Because see, whenever the pilot is talking to the ATC controller or the air traffic controller, right, the air traffic controller and the ATC or the pilot are talking through radio frequencies only. And when they're talking through radio frequencies, it is very much possible that your phone can fluctuate, or your phone can simply disturb these radio frequencies, right? So if radio frequencies got fluctuated, as I have shown you over here in that example, that the frequency can get disturbed and you might be able to listen nothing. So there might be a condition, or there might be a situation where the pilot or the ATC would not be able to hear the correct information, or would not be able to get the correct information. Have you seen this movie, Runway 34? It's basically um, Ajay Devgan and Amitabh Bachchan starring in this particular movie. Have you seen this movie? If not, try to see this. Right, it's a pretty good, pretty amazing movie. And what happens is that the ATC misses to convey one simple weather related information to the pilot, and उसके उसकी वजह से बहुत बड़ा एक हादसा या a very very huge crash got avoided, right? तो ये चीजें होती हैं, right? The point is that airplane mode is there to simply just simply deactivate or disable your all the radio frequencies जो आपके फोन से आ रही है या जा रही है, राइट. सो द पॉइंट इज दैट हाफ ट्यूप्लेक्स मोड के ऊपर ये सारी चीज़ें काम करती हैं, एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स इन हाफ ट्यूप्लेक्स मोड दैट आर बेसिकली देयर. सो इन हाफ ट्यूप्लेक्स मोड्स यूजुअली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आर वेरी वेरी बेसिक थिंग, इट्स प्रेटी सिंपल कि हाँ एक तरफ से ही डेटा या तो आएगा या फिर एक तरफ ही डेटा जाएगा. दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव with half duplex over here, right? Walkie talkies are one of the prime example. Whenever you are basically talking to somebody, you say over, and whenever you are saying over, तो इसका मतलब है कि हाँ भाई बात खत्म हो चुकी है, and over and out means that the whole information has been conveyed and we do not need to basically convey much further information, right? So ये सब रहता है उसके अंदर. Then the second thing what I would say, what I would tell about this particular thing is the full duplex mode. अच्छा, full duplex क्या होता है? Full duplex is again a pretty simple thing where we have the option of both the things as the answers are coming in. We can basically send everything over here. मतलब हम भेज भी सकते हैं और we can basically have the data listen over here as well. So it supports both the modes. मतलब जाएगा भी और आएगा भी, दोनों चीजें होंगी, right? So we can receive and we can send the data. It's two-way over here, right? So mobiles, all the machines that we have are the same thing, right? Okay. The third one is simplex, right? Simplex. Anybody who know about simplex? सिम्प्लेक्स इज अगेन प्रीटी सिंपल थिंग, राइट. यहाँ पर आपको डेटा भेजना अलाउड ही नहीं होता है दूसरी तरफ. सो यू आर नॉट एक्चुअली अलाउड टू सेंड द डेटा इन द अदर वे. एनी एग्जाम्पल? रेडियो. एनी अदर एग्जाम्पल रादर देन रेडियो? रेडियो के अलावा कोई और एग्जाम्पल? TV, right? So all our satellite system, TV system, keyboard. Yes, we can say keyboard. It's not that कि keyboard पे वापस कुछ command आ रहा हो. We can say that the communication is one way only, allowed one way only. Radios पे और हमारे जितने भी टीवी होते हैं, केबल एंटीना टीवी, उन सब पे एक्चुअली सिंप्लेक्स ही यूज हो रहा होता है, एंड वी कैन बेसिकली अंडरस्टैंड दैट अ सिंप्लेक्स काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन इज गोइंग ऑन. सो ऑल दिस इज बेसिकली टेकन केयर by my physical layer only, right? Okay, moving ahead, the further thing that we need to understand is topology, right? So topologies are something, topology, whatever you call it, it is basically how the connections are created, how the connections are basically working over here. That is what topology is. And to understand topology, we need to basically understand how topologies are factored, right? Or basically how they are taken into viewpoint. So there are three main factors on which a topology would depend. That is, number one, I would write over here as my economic factor, that how economic my topology is, right? How economic my main topology is. And then the second factor I would basically say over here could be fault tolerance, that if my topology, in my topology, if one particular PC gets disturbed or one particular PC gets broken down, what is the fault or what is the tolerance power of the whole structure that it would survive, राइट? अगर एक छोटी सी भी गलती है, एक छोटा सा भी पीसी खराब हो जाता है, तो ऐसे केस में क्या उसका मेन उसका उसका जो क्षमता है उसकी बेसिकली एक फॉल्ट को सहने की, वो कितनी है? That is what fault tolerance is. And the third point we can simply understand is basically our you know we can simply say it's pretty simple, our scalability, right? So we have scalability over here, and scalability से भी हमें ये समझ में आता है that ultimately how much you can scale a particular network. So there are three main factors on every topology. तो अगर मैं पहली topology की बात करता हूँ, तो that first topology is basically my first topology is basically my pretty simple topology, a series topology, राइट? सो इट्स बेसिकली अ सीरीज टोपोलॉजी. एंड देखो सीरीज टोपोलॉजी में कुछ नहीं है, यहाँ पे यू आर कनेक्टिंग अ डिवाइस लाइक दिस, यू आर सिंपली कनेक्टिंग डिवाइसेस इन अ सीरीज ओवर हियर, दैट्स इट. एंड ऐसे केस में देयर द इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर इन्वॉल्व? क्या ये इकोनॉमिक है, हाँ या ना? It's very much economic, right? You just have to add one more PC connected over here. Yes, it's economic. Is it fault tolerant? Right? अगर यहाँ से एक PC break हो जाता है, so will my topology suffer? Yes, it would suffer. It is not having a proper fault tolerance because if one PC breaks, we are just dividing my whole topology into two parts. So yes, it is not having fault tolerance. Is it scalable? Yes, it is pretty much scalable, right? Because we can simply scale it by connecting one more PC over here. So yes, it is pretty much scalable. So that is about the series topology, right? Now the point is, what about the bus topology, right? As you mentioned, bus topology, let's take that as well. So we are connecting the mainframe PC over here, and then we are basically connecting other PCs in a bus-like corridor over here. Now, this particular topology is called as bus topology, and in bus topology, we have the economic factor. Yes, we do have the economic factor, right? Do we have fault tolerance over here? What if one particular connection breaks over here, right? What would happen? The others would still be working, no issues in that. So fault tolerance is there, right? So ultimately, the next thing is what about scalability? So in scalability, yes, we can just simply connect over here one more PC, pretty much easy, right? So yes, it is pretty much scalable. So we can say yes, it's scalable over here. Okay, let's go to one more topology over here. That is our ring topology. So ring is a pretty simple topology. We are just connecting the series topology. हम लोग series के last वाले को पहले वाले से connect कर देंगे and we would basically get a ring topology. So in ring topology, we do have this kind of structure, right? And it's a cycle over here, right? As you said. So ultimately, इस topology के अंदर क्या economic factor है? Is there any economic factor in this particular topology? So I guess yes, इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर हो सकता है डिपेंडिंग अपॉन व्हाट इज द मीडियम. अगर आप केबल से कनेक्ट कर रहे हो तो हो सकता है बहुत ज़्यादा इकोनॉमिक ना हो. अगर आपने दूर दूर रखे हैं तो बोथ द पीसीज आर एट अ वेरी डिफरेंट पॉइंट. फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स से इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर कुछ ऐसा हुआ कि अगर मुझे इनको जोड़ना है, राइट, इफ आई एम स्केलिंग, तो मुझे कितना महंगा पड़ेगा या कितना सस्ता पड़ेगा. अगर सस्ता पड़ रहा है तो वो इकोनॉमिक है, अगर नहीं पड़ रहा है सस्ता तो वो इकोनॉमिक नहीं है, right? So that is the point. Now the point is that um, what I can do over here, right? If let's say all the PCs are connected at a different floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor. So in that case, it would not be very economic, right? To connect it with wires. But with a wireless medium, it would yet be economic. So it can be or cannot be economic, right? Depends upon the situation, right? What about fault tolerance? Right. If we break this, would we still able to be get connected with the PCs? Yes, it's fault tolerant. Is it very much scalable? I would not say it is easily scalable because you have to connect one PC with the other two PCs, so it would be a hassle, right? You always have to basically connect it with the other two PCs, right? So that is not very much scalable, I would say. Very not very easy to scale, right? Then we have the fourth topology over here. That could be our star topology. So star topology is something that is basically connected to one thing, and it's basically a kind of star structure over here. Right now, this is a star structure over here. Now you can see that this is pretty simple topology, and we are always using this topology. Right, हम लोग hotspot जब खोलते हैं तो स्टार बन जाता है. राइट, बेसिकली योर फोन कम्स इन द मिडल. आप लोग जब अपने फोन के राउटर में चीज़ें चलाते हो तो उसमें भी बीच में आपका राउटर होता है, तो अगेन दैट इज बेसिकली स्टार टोपोलॉजी ओनली. तो ये सब चीज़ें यहाँ पर रहती है, एंड दिस इज हाउ दे ऑल द पीसीज आर बेसिकली कनेक्टेड टू ईच अदर, राइट? एंड थ्रू दैट मिडल वन दे कैन टॉक टू द अदर वन. सो इकोनॉमिक है क्योंकि आप बहुत इजीली वायरलेसली वायर तरीके से दोनों तरीके से कनेक्ट कर सकते हो. फॉल्ट टॉलरेंट भी है बिकॉज इफ वन फेल्स यू नो दैट द यू आर स्टिल connected over there, right? Is it scalable? Yes, very much scalable. That is why we use it at our homes, right? Then ultimately we have fully interconnected topology. Right now, fully interconnected topology is um, pretty simple to say that every particular computer would be connected to the other computer as well. So for example, this is a fully interconnected topology. Now if one more PC has to get in, it has to basically get connected with the all the PCs over here, then only it would basically get connected. So this is basically a fully interconnected topology. With fully interconnected topology, is it economic? I would say no, not very much economic. Is it fault tolerance? Fault tolerant? Yes, it is fault tolerant, right? Is it scalable? Right, I would say not easily scalable. Right. Then you have mesh topology and the topologies like you can just simply um, connect it however you basically want, right? So mesh are like that. So mesh topology depends, it's a very situational kind of topology. You can connect any kind of topology over here, or you can basically connect the devices however you want. You can also basically go ahead with hybrid topologies. Hybrid are like connecting two topologies together. Then we also have tree topology. Tree is something like you have something over here where you are basically connecting the PCs like this, and in tree topology, you are basically having the nodes. Now, it is pretty simple to basically connect the nodes over here, but it is not very much simple to make it, fault tolerant, right? Because yes, it is economic. Yes, it is good to scale. But what about fault tolerance? What if this PC breaks? What if this PC breaks over here? Then the whole chain would basically get off from this tree. So this particular thing would not have that much fault tolerant power over here. So this is basically topology. And why are we studying about this? Because as a network person, we have to sometimes create network. हम लोग को network create करने पड़ते हैं अलग अलग जगह के. And once we're creating the network, we have to basically see that where our network is working, where it is not working, and you have to create a city-wide network. Sometimes you have to create a network in a business or in an office. So you need to basically see into that over here, right? For example, right now, I am just simply living over here at third floor, right? So I'm living at third floor right now. I also have fourth floor. So the point is that if I'm living at third floor, my whole internet connection comes to the third floor over here, and I basically have my router at third floor, right? The main router through which ISP has installed. Now this router is basically connecting to two other routers, right? Now this is the main router for my third floor, which is my residential area, and there is this at fourth floor, which is again my office area. And ultimately over here, we have one more router over here, one more router over here. Now this router basically works in a star topology, and this router also works in a star topology. But as you can see, if you simplify this, it would simply become something like this, that you have a, something like this, and you have like this like a tree like structure, and then you basically make a star structure. So it's basically a hybrid topology. Now, for me, fault tolerance was never an option. So I wanted to basically make it scalable, and I wanted to make it economical. So that is why I used this particular kind of thing. Now, in an office or in a particular situation, you can go with your own topology. That particularly depends upon situation, what you want to use and what you want to prioritize between these three conditions or three factors, right? Which topology is reliable to make good connection between devices? Again, depends upon what you need most, right? How many numbers of topology are there? It can depend upon what a kind of shape you can create, right? You can go with mesh, you can do whatever you want, right? So the entire thing, yes, this entire thing comes under this thing only. The entire thing basically comes under our overall physical layer, because it defines the thing, or it defines basically the points how everything is basically connected to each and everything. So yes, we can simply understand that, right? Okay, going forward, we have other things in physical layer as well. For example, we have cables, right? We are not going to talk about cables as of now, right? We would be talking about cables when we would be doing some practical stuff, and then we would be talking mostly about cables, but not as of now, because it's not the need to learn about cables as of now, right? Because cables are of many types, and going through the cables would not be significant right now. So when we're doing the practical with Cisco Packet Tracer, we'll be going with the cables as well. Okay, let's go forward and understand what kind of devices comes over here in the physical layer. So in physical layer, there are multiple devices that we can say. And any devices that you can tell me about, or any devices that you can just list out, what kind of devices we could have in physical layer? So let's list out switch. Okay. What else? Hub. Okay, what else? Anything else that I could have? Router. End devices are just PCs, right? Fan, no, not a fan. Fan would how fan is a um okay. I read it as fan. It's LAN. Okay. So LAN is it's more of a and the network system, right? Not component or a device, right? Cables can be said, but no, I would not be taking cables as a device. Cable is a medium. Again, medium is a part of physical layer, but I'm talking about devices. Power plugs, bridge. Okay, bridges are there. Good answer, right? Then ultimately we have repeaters. Yes, we do have repeaters over here. Okay, power plugs, not into devices, right? Then what do we have? I guess these much, right? So in this, if you see bridge, right? Bridge, Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a medium, right? Talking about devices once again, right? So talking about bridges. Bridges are okay to understand, but bridges are pretty simple. What a bridge does, it's basically converting a signal into any other signal. So it is not actually a network device. A bridge cannot be said as a actual network device. It's a device. It's a physical device that can help a network convert into any other network or something like that, but not a networking device as of what we can say, right? So the first one is switch. Right. So basically the switch. So remotes, yes, we can say remotes as well, but remotes are like remote controls. So they work in radio frequencies. Again, that could come in the medium, right? So that is the thing. The remote control is basically the remote is just the control of how the frequency would be mapped, right? That is the thing. So bridge is basically, yes, it connects two separate network. It can connect one network to the other network. So yes, uh, we can not directly call it a networking device though, right? Because as of now, bridges are not used in today's industrial zone, right? Most of the times, what you would see that bridges has been replaced by your hubs and your switches, right? And in physical layer, I know that switch is a device. We do not count switch. We do not count routers. So these two devices are not our in the physical layer. So in physical layer, why switches are not there? Because switches work on MAC addresses. So we'll be talking switches about switches tomorrow. And um, routers, we would be talking about routers in the the third layer, basically the network layer. So again, in physical layer we cannot count router over here, right? So the point is that because router works on IP, switch works on MAC, they cannot be considered directly in the physical layer. Hubs is a very simple thing. It's just a thing that you are basically connecting a PC over here and you want to get connected with different other PCs. So you connect a hub over here and the hub basically connects you with other PCs over here. So it's basically kind of an extension board where one PC might have just one port to connect with other PC. So you can just plug in a hub and ultimately it could basically connect with some other PCs as well. Right. So that is what we can say as a hub. Right? It's a pretty simple thing. A hub is right. It's just like the extension cable you might basically get, or the power extensions that we have. Right. So that is the thing. A repeater, on the other hand, is something that repeats the signal. I guess, again, I do not need to explain this particular thing because this is something like after every 100 meters, you might have seen repeaters plugged in with the fiber optic network. या फिर आपने कभी बाहर ऐसा एक स्ट्रक्चर देखा होगा, a purse like structure is basically there in the wires, right? So that particular structure is the router only, right? That purse like structure that you might have seen connected with the wires is the router only. Like it goes like this and then goes inside and then like comes like this. So this is the whole path of it, and ultimately it converts the signal, or it amplifies the signal once again and then send it back, right? So that आपकी जो speed है वो उतनी ही रहे. And the other type of repeaters you might have seen, the other kind of repeaters you might have seen attached with your routers. राइट। हैव सीन दैट स्मॉल डिवाइसेस की यहाँ पे एक ब्लैक केबल आती है, आपका वाईफाई वाला लगा के जाएगा, एंड एक येलो केबल फिर वो निकाल करके राउटर से कनेक्ट करता है, right? So your router is basically connected to this yellow cable, which is coming directly from that small white device or black device that is connected. It's a pretty small rectangular device that you might have seen, might be there in your house if you are using a fiber optic connection. Or if you go around with any kind of good ISP, they would basically put it over here. So this saves cost a lot, because ये जो केबल होती है कॉपर केबल होती है, and this black copper cable can support speeds up to 100 Mbps, right? But you have seen just now that my speed was 200 to 300 Mbps. This was all because of this small device, because this device is converting the signal into fiber optic, and when it is converting that particular signal, एक तो इससे मेरा ping stable हो जाता है, my ping gets stable, right? I do not get a lot of frame drops, right? Because ultimately not a lot of information is basically getting wasted because of this particular repeater that is just beyond my router. So ultimately, it would be very good to send a signal over here at a very amplified, boosted bandwidth. Then ultimately, it also boosts your speed. For example, even if it is the wire is supporting 100 Mbps or 200 Mbps, you can get higher speeds because this would particularly amplify your speed and give the router the speed it wants. इसलिए जो आपका वाईफाई वाले जो टेक्नीशियंस होते हैं, दे कम विद दैट 15,000 रुपीज़ का जो डिवाइस आता है, इट्स लाइक सूट केस. So they bring with themselves, and then they basically connect that fiber optic cable with the copper cable so that the current can pass through and then convert into the light, right? So वो light source में convert करते हैं, और फिर total internal reflection TIR happens in this yellow cable. It's a very small cable, a very thin cable, and then it reaches your router, and your router basically processes or gives that particular speed, right? So that is what a repeater is, right? And repeater and hubs are the main things that we basically talk about in my physical layer system, right? So the point is that this physical layer system is the main building block of networking. And इसके अंदर और भी चीज़ें हैं, as I have said that we have a lot more things on physical layer which can be called as cables or mediums, right? Because medium के अंदर भी देखो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं that we can consider. Medium के अंदर भी we have like the things like radio frequencies are there, right? On which we have Bluetooth working over here, and then ultimately our walkie talkies and everything are working. उसके अलावा we have wires over here, right? So wires के अंदर there are a lot of things that are there, right? Wires के अंदर we have normal USB cables, and then we have the charging cables, right? We have this cable. There are different types of cable that can connect your PC to PC. These are called as crossover cables. Then there are straight through cables that can connect to different devices connected to each other, right? Then there is console cable that can be connected directly with your console port, right? So I'll be explaining about all these cables once you basically go through the practical system, right? So I would also recommend you downloading this particular software called as um, Cisco Packet Tracer, right? So Cisco Packet Tracer can be found on Google, and this Cisco Packet Tracer is the main thing that we would be needing for the next sessions as well. So just go around with Cisco Packet Tracer. It's basically the software, or it's basically the thing that we need over here, right? So basically the simulating software that we would basically need, right? So let's go, and we'll be just ending the session in a minute, right? So I'm just giving you the way to download it. So you just have to go over here on the Cisco Learning Network. You will be basically getting this NetAcad link, right? So just click over here. It would redirect to NetAcad website. You just have to sign up over here, and then you will be able to get the link for downloading Cisco Packet Tracer. So just make sure you have Cisco Packet Tracer installed in your PCs, right? Because after completing the next two sessions, we will be going on to Cisco Packet Tracer Tracer, creating some of the networks, and then we would be also doing a lab on TryHackMe as well, which would be a practical lab as well, right? So this is the basic thing that we would be doing, right? So make sure you have installed all these stuff and are good to go in the next sessions. Okay, so that's all from my side for today, right? Let me go around with the feedback form for you, right? So that you can how to download, just Google Cisco Packet Tracer, it will take you to NetAcad website. NetAcad की वेबसाइट पे जाके वहाँ पे आपको डायरेक्टली लिंक मिल जाएगा. You just have to sign up over there, create your ID, and then you will be able to go around with Cisco Packet Tracer. So this is basically the link for the feedback. Go around, please fill the feedback once, and we can basically end the session. And Mac, we can download. Yes, for Mac also you can download. Cisco Packet Tracer is available for Mac, for Windows, for Linux. It was also available for Android, but it would be a very old version. It would be like 1 year old version for Android. Okay. So any other question that you might have? No? Okay. So thanks a lot, everyone. Please do fill up the form, write the feedback form, and yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay. Good night.